Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching Angela and Michael on 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. Let's get to it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and I watch this show and react to it. Let's watch.
See, Michael? There's nothing on your phone, Michael. I just don't understand why you didn't already do it. It's stuff like that that bothers me. Like, you say things to please me at the time, but you really don't mean it sincerely.
Okay, so that's interesting. She asked that he put some pictures of her on his phone. So I wish that people had more explicit conversations and owned their feelings around these issues. The issue is not that she wants to have pictures of herself on his phone. The issue is that she's looking for confirmation that he's for real, that he really does love her and really does want to marry her and isn't scamming her. That's often what the implication is. And her friend was, or her daughter or someone was saying, he's scamming you, that kind of thing. So what's going on there is that Angela, which is normal, is feeling insecure and wondering if he really indeed does love her. And she's using this proxy behavior as evidence. But it's not necessarily evidence. Now, he has said, and his friends have said, the reason why they don't have the pictures on his phone is because if they have pictures of a white lady in his part of the world on someone's phone, it's assumed that he's scamming someone and he will be arrested by the police. Seems like a weird story, but I don't know. It could be right. Two people said it was true. I'll take their word for it. And she said, okay, fine, but now that I'm here and everyone realized you're not scamming me because we're getting married soon, I need you to put a picture of me on your phone. And so she grabs his phone, and there's no pictures of her on the phone, and now she's upset. So let's see how they talk about it. Let's see if she can own her feelings, and let's see if he can own his, and maybe give an explanation. Maybe he forgot, maybe he's not quite sure, maybe he's really afraid of the police or whatever. But she brought something up that I think is part of their dynamic. Angela's very smart to identify this. She says, I feel like sometimes you just say things to appease me, but you're not really intending on doing it. And then later on I find out that you were just saying that to appease me and you didn't really mean it, and that really bothers me. And I think that is possible. That's a possible dynamic that the two of them have. She is very extroverted. She is very blunt, if you will. She wears her heart on her sleeve. She's very communicative. As soon as she feels something, she says it. He is the opposite of that. And people like him will sometimes avoid conflict by saying, yes, yes, I'll do it, even though they have no intention of doing it. In the moment, they might convince themselves they have the intention to do it, but later on they're like, but I don't want to, and then they just don't. And in their mind, they might be having all these conversations, but they don't actually have them with the other person. A lot of people, I don't know if Michael's like this. It's always harder to read these kinds of, it's much easier to read Angela because she's outward with her feelings. It's harder to know what's going on for him, but it's quite possible that he does have this syndrome or this condition, this personality type where your trauma has told you that you couldn't be upfront with people. You were unsafe if you did. And so you choose the lesser of two evils. I would rather be silent and safe but do what I want kind of on the side and maybe incur some bad consequences down the line, than be upfront right now and incur some horrible consequence. Now, I'm not saying Angela would give a horrible consequence, but someone in his past, usually early childhood, that would be the case. So let's see how they talk about this.
It upsets me when Michael follows thousands of women and looks at their photos, but he doesn't want to see my photo when he opens up his damn phone. I mean, how long does it take Michael to put a picture on a phone? It doesn't take that long at all, so what's the problem?
Right. So at this point, even though it is a proxy behavior, a proxy evidence for love, it is weird that earlier he said, yeah, now that you're here, I'm going to put a picture of you on my phone, and then he didn't. So not only is it the proxy behavior, but it's also this, wait, so what's going on here? Are you lying to me? Regardless of what it was, you said you were going to do something and you didn't do it. Do you care? And this is why it's important to be upfront. I'm sure there's a good reason for why he did that. He should have been upfront with her from the start so she doesn't have to discover, get hurt, be very concerned, get angry and hostile. She isn't hostile yet, but I'm just going to suspect, or I suspect that it's coming, but let's watch.
You say a girl in your neighborhood didn't have no ride, didn't have no money, and so you gave her a ride and she paid by giving you a job.
I did the BJ, no, for real. I confessed to her that I did it. But I made her to understand that apart from that BJ, I didn't do anything with anyone else.
Okay, so he admitted it. I guess that's a plus. He cheated on her. That's pretty awful. But he told her, and now we're looking at a situation where we have compounding lies and distrust. This is why cheating is so destructive. This is why lies and deception is so destructive. The little bit of physical pleasure that he got from that, I'm sure, does not outweigh the amount of pain and hurt and conflict and annoyance in his life that he has to go through because of how hurt she naturally is by that. Now, when she doesn't see a picture of her on his phone, it's going to trigger that trauma of being cheated on. It can be very traumatic. I've literally treated people who developed PTSD because of the discovery of the infidelity. It's a shock to the system. It is a massive, shocking moment of distress. Like, whoa, what? And your entire world gets flipped upside down. And you question everything. Does this person love me? Does anyone love me? Am I lovable? What's going on? What else is happening? What else is lying? What are people conspiring against me? It's very scary. And so that's what he signed up for when he cheated on her. And so now when she doesn't see a picture of her on his phone, it's going to trigger that. It's going to touch on that. It's just like, is this, because I'm guessing for Angela, there's a part of her that feels like, is this all a scam? Does he really love me? Because in that moment, he demonstrated to me that he did not love me. He didn't love me enough in that moment to just say, no, I don't want to do that with you right now. He didn't say that. In that moment, he allowed it to happen, or he pursued it, or whatever. And there's a part of him that would rather do other things for selfish reasons than to care about me. There's a part of he's capable of that. And so you're going to be worried. It's going to cause what they call trust issues for a long time, and any minor trust issue is going to become exacerbated by the bigger one in the past. So let's see how they talk about it here.
I was furious, you remember?
Yes.
Okay, we got over that, right? Because you were honest to me, right? We got over it. We wasn't that serious then, so I got over it. Michael told me the girl was really aggressive, so he really didn't realize what was happening until it was too late.
What? I mean, it's possible. I mean, there are sexual assaults on men for sure. They happen way more often than is talked about, way more often. That's essentially what he's claiming, at least her narrative of his narrative to her, is it happened without him knowing about. Anyway, let's continue watching.
Something's telling me you lied about that too. Here's what I think. I think you went to a club, you drank a beer with your friends, you were horny, and you was looking for a bitch to You seen one, you got a job, and you went home. You didn't want me to know you was hanging out trying to look for Michael.
Okay, so it's understandable that she has that worry. There's a better way to communicate about it. You could say something like, now I'm worried, there's been a few different deceptions and a few different incursions and disruptions on my trust for you. And now it makes me question a lot of things. Were you really coerced essentially into having a sexual encounter with that woman, or was it consensual? Were you actually even looking for it? And I'm guessing Angela is worried, were there other incidents? Is this the only time? It seems rather stupid of me to think this was the only time. This is as I always say, the insidious, destructive nature of infidelity and deception and lying. Because it opens the door to that very rational concern. What else are they doing? Can I really trust this person? Now, it doesn't mean that they're doomed. I've worked with a lot of couples on infidelity and trust recovery, and they're talking about it, and he's listening, which is good. So maybe they're on the path to recovery. Let's see how they do.
You're absolutely right. You're right.
You lied again, Michael.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so on one hand, it's good. He's admitting it. He's not fighting it. We've seen a lot of people on this show exhibit shady behavior and then continue to hide it, and then they're caught way down the line. But it is shady at the same time. It's on the shady spectrum to go out, look for, he's admitting to her narrative, go out, look for someone, cheat on Angela, and then tell her a lie, a deceptive version of the story. He cheated and lied about it. And this is one of the things that happens so often to people who cheat is when they're caught or when they want to admit it, they'll only tell a little bit. They say, well, I'll just tell them a little bit. And then more questions start happening, and then they lie. But the cheating person is saying, well, I've told them at least the crux of the matter. I'm not going to tell them the whole story. So I've worked with people in session with this sort of thing and with the Michaels of the world. And as they're, the questions start happening. Angela's like, okay, let's say that I was there when he told her the first time. He's like, I have something to tell you. This happened. And then she's like, what? She's upset. And then she starts asking questions. And I would stop him and I'd say, I want you to think, and I've done this before, I want you to think very carefully about what you're going to say. Do not impulsively answer any question. There are only two options healthy available to you. One is to answer 100% honestly. The second option is to say, I'm sorry, I'm not ready to answer that question yet. I will at some point, I'm not ready right now. I will tell you one day, I'm not ready right now. The third option is not healthy, which is to lie, which so many people will do in situations like this. Yeah, I got together with her, but I didn't want to, and it was only this one thing, and we only did that, and I've never done it before. I've never done it again, and I never will. Because there's this desperation. You want to retain the relationship, and you're ashamed usually, and you're lying. You're what I call shame lying. But if it's not true, almost always the truth will eventually be discovered, or it'll come out somehow. And now the Angelas of the world have to contend not only with the cheating, but now they have to contend with the lies. And that is perhaps even more destructive. So he's admitting it, which is a plus, but to have done it in the first place is just so destructive. So let's continue watching.
I'm sorry. I just trying to protect.
Well, explain it to me so I can calm it in my head. Because if you're going to do this, you're going to cheat on me, and that's that. There's marriage out there that they cheat on their wives. I see it. I don't want that kind of relationship.
Okay, so she's asking, okay, please explain it to me. And that is a big part of this. I will enter that exploration that can last for months with clients in situations like this. Sometimes what'll happen is the Michaels of the world, if they're being honest and if they know themselves, which is a whole other thing, the Michaels of the world have to know their feelings. They have to be self-aware, and most people aren't, at least to the extent that they need to be in a situation like this, which usually led to the cheating to begin with. And as a side note, the narrative about cheating often, almost universally, is, oh, he just wants to eat his cake or have his cake and eat it too. And yeah, okay, that's fine if you want to see it that way. But every single time that I've worked with someone and known someone personally who is cheating is operating from a place of suffering. It's not okay to cheat, but in the same way that addiction and substance abuse or behavioral compulsions, gambling addiction, this sort of thing, it always, in every single case I've ever worked with, comes from a place of suffering, comes from a place of shame, of trauma. Cheating is no different. People say, "Oh, he's a sex addict, he's a scumbag," or whatever. No, I've never seen that. The people that I have worked with, and again in my personal life that I know have cheated, were sad, self-destructive, operating from a passive-aggressive, dependent place, operating from childhood trauma, lack of assertiveness, lack of knowing what you want, lack of knowing how to explore your own emotions, lack of knowing how to navigate situations where people might be, who knows, but Michael's friends might be like, hey, you're never going to see that Angela woman, come out with us. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he starts being influenced by people around. Maybe he's heavily influenced. Maybe he's a follower, not a leader. And then his friends are egging him on, and this woman starts talking. She likes him, and he's like, oh, okay. And at no point is he able to, wait, what do I want in this situation? What's my great, who knows? I'm just painting a possible story. So I just want to point that out, that it's not okay to cheat, but it is almost always an indication that something deep and dark is going on in someone. But anyway, so what Angela's hoping for, and what I would hope for if I was working with them, is for Michael to actually give a narrative about what happens, because it would really help Angela to trust him. Because she has a lot of possible narratives in her mind, including he doesn't really love me, including he's a player and he's just scamming me, including I will never be able to trust him. So a story, I don't know, given his demeanor, it's possible that he might say something, if he were to know himself and to be able to communicate it, he might say something like, well, we first started dating and I was really into you, but I didn't know if I would ever see you. I mean, you were on the other side of the planet, and honestly, there were times when I thought, well, this is probably just a flirtatious online thing. But when I talk to her, I'm really into her. But the months are passing by. Is this ever going to happen? And I never communicated that to you because I'm really shy, and I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to push you away. Now that you're here, I'm really glad. Once we started getting the ball rolling, I've been 100% on. But back then, when things were new, I wasn't really quite sure. That doesn't justify it. I'm not making an excuse. I did something wrong, but that's what I was going through at the time. And honestly, I just missed companionship and love and sex. And I was weak this one time. I got too drunk and I got into that mode, and I'm sorry. But when that happened, the next day I felt so horrible. That's why I told you about it. And I learned my lesson that time. I don't want to ever do it again. Maybe it's something like that. Now, if you can know yourself and communicate that, then the other person will still be hurt, but it'll really help the recovery process, because if you can say something like that, it can help them develop a narrative that is constructive for the future. Now, we don't know. Maybe Michael is a scumbag. Maybe y'all know because you've seen Michael and Angela in future seasons. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.